the language of beats.
Shine, shine, believe in yourself. Shine, oh shine, 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 believe in yourself. Shine, oh shine. Hello. Good morning, and welcome to episode 2 of Couch Time Talks. I know that I mentioned that I was going to have a special guest, and indeed I do. So here is my guest. My special guest is my son. Yay! So, Raquan, would you introduce yourself to everyone?
Like she said, my name is Raquan Singleton. I'm her son. That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. He's my son, right? So we are going to try to make this as informal as possible. There were some things that I wanted to touch on and talk on, especially since now he's in the midst of actually a job search, right? So we started to think about things that affect millennials because he is 29 years old. Oh my God, I date myself and I find myself feeling 100 when I say he's 29. It's unbelievable how quickly time passes. But I know that, we talk about a lot of things, and we have talked about a lot of things work related. And normally when he's going through a job or a role or process, we'll have these conversations because there are a lot of things, in today's society that affect millennials. And talking about, why leaders should listen to their employee base. I know that there have been, a lot of jobs, and you always talk about, jobs that you worked on, and you say they never listen, right? Mm-hmm. And I literally have had the same experience, and I tend to agree because they don't listen to me either. And literally, I've had more senior leadership positions, obviously, than he has. But talk to me a little bit about that, and can you elaborate and tell me what you mean by, the leaders don't listen?
Well, pretty much, if you want like a successful company, what I believe is that you should take the feedback from the people that work under you in order to grow. A lot of times when you get in these jobs, it's ego.
Yes.
And that ego keeps people from, blocking out other people's thoughts because they think, I could do it better than them because I'm the leader. You know what I mean? But a true leader, you will have to listen to your employees, listen to concerns, and y'all can grow together. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much what I mean by that.
Yeah, like I find that, sometimes leaders, depending on who they are and what they've experienced, there is a sense of intimidation, right? Do you think that because you are a black male that makes it worse or it intensifies?
Oh yeah, especially depending on like who's the leader, if they're of a different race. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much it.
Right. And then I'm assuming too that you feel like youth always plays a part in that too, because I found that even listening to you and listening to Shane, sometimes I get new ideas or concept or innovative ideas, or they help me to keep up with trends like in hip hop and society in general, because they aren't normally things that I would pay attention to, but because I have them around me, then normally I'll look at trends and then I'll say, wow, this person is really creative, or, I wouldn't have known this individual had not you all pointed it out. So do you find, clearly that, youth plays a part in that? And how do you think that, leaders can overcome that feeling of ego or, intimidation?
Yeah, I think youth plays a part, especially when you're older, and that's with everything, but, no offense, but even you too, you don't like to listen to me sometimes, right? So. But yeah, youth definitely plays a part, people always want to feel above, especially when they're in that position of being in that superior role, so definitely that. And what was your other question?
How do you think leaders can, kind of overcome that? What do you think they can do themselves to overcome that feeling?
Just try to be inclusive. Just keep an open ear, just, okay, you know what? I was doing it like this, but let's give it a go one time. Let's try it out and see if it works, and it might.
So when you think of, inclusivity, right? Because a lot of this D&I talk, and my last organization, clearly I was like a D&I leader in that organization. But one of my problems with DE&I, I tend to have a different opinion about diversity, equity, inclusion. Literally, I've never not felt included until I started working in corporate America and somebody told me that I wasn't included. I was raised to believe that I could do anything, I could accomplish anything. And then when people came and said, oh, well, you're not included. Well, included with who? Included with what? Like, what group of people is saying that, we're not included as human beings, right, to be able to be successful. So when you think about inclusivity, what does that mean for you? How do you think people can make you feel included?
Be accepting of everything. I'm not saying everything, but the positive things.
Right.
Be accepting of everything. Make sure you taking in perspective of the different cultures that work around you.
Right.
Because, like I say, when you listen, you keep an open ear, you grow more.
Right. Right.
Me, I'm Black, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Are you Black? Because there's some question about me being Black, so I don't know. But clearly you're Black.
but like I might have a coworker from Bangladesh,
right?
And maybe he knows some things from that area that'll help improve things. His culture. You just gotta be aware of who you're around, but also keep an open ear and just try to implement some of those things.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think over time I've learned a lot, kind of from the employees or people that work for me. And a lot of the times they've been younger people. And I get really excited trying to listen to some of their ideas. The only thing I find in advice that I would have to, millennials and even Gen Z, right, which would be the next generation over, sometimes you have to slow it down, right? Because why reinvent the wheel? Sometimes there are foundational things that are in place for a reason.
Right.
And then what happens is it's like, why are we doing this thing? In order to truly learn and understand something, if you foundationally understand how it's set up, then you can understand why things need to be a certain way. You can go back, fix it, and adjust it, right? But I do always find these innovative new ideas from, younger people, and I always take heed to that. I think about it's this day and time, it's always people saying it's who you know, right? Mm-hmm. But I always say, it should not be, kind of who you know, it should be what you know, right? So, in this day and time, I know you went to Savannah State, right, which is a historically Black college. And then you end up graduating with a BA from, an associate's degree, rather, from Georgia State University. With that being a historically Black college, they always seem to think, especially with your generation, that you have to be a part of some group, right? Whether it is a sorority or whether it's like, some kind of Masonic society, whatever it may be, it's always kind of pushed in your generation to think that you have to be a part of these groups in order to be successful, right? Now, I'm one to believe that, I'm not against those things, right? Because I do think they promote a certain sense of camaraderie, a certain sense of, team, and how to work together. It's collaborative. It teaches you how to have confidence within yourself. But I've never subscribed, right, to the thought process that I had to be a part of some group to be included. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that, as far as being pushed, to be a part of any kind of membership in order to make you feel like this is the only way you can get ahead?
Well, see, from my perspective, it was really when I was younger. Now I don't feel that way. I did feel pushed when I was younger because you're told like, okay, join this because, like you said, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
So let's say I got a buddy in the same organization as me. My resume is getting pulled before theirs. Their resume is getting pulled before mine.
Right.
So it's definitely like I would say it's almost like peer pressure.
Ooh, wow, right.
So it's almost like that, like, okay, I have to do this in order to be successful, but in reality, 9 times out of 10, you just focus on yourself and your own personal development, and those things, they'll come to you.
Yeah, I've clearly, they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and I've always raised you and Shane to be independent thinkers, and I've never really been one to be geared toward being a part of some certain group, right? So I like individuality and the uniqueness behind being who I am, and I pretty much raised them in the same fashion. So again, like I'm not against the camaraderie and sisterhood or brotherhood or whatever it may be, because I think that it does have a sense of value, but no one should be made to feel like they have to be a part of some exclusive group, to where that's the only way that they can be pushed forward, right? And I don't like the message that sends. So I think that that's a great point that you make, right? That, hey, you did feel that pressure up front. But I would say to young people that you shouldn't feel pressure like that. Like if you want to do it, by all means, take that step and do it. But if you don't, then don't, right? Because I don't think that it's something that you have to do, and people should be promoting that. But what was your experience as far as, going to a historically Black college? Like, what was that like for you?
It was great.
Right. Wow.
The time of my life.
Well,
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, do you think that there are differences as far as because you did get, accepted into a couple of different schools, and that was the one we chose just, for the financial benefits of it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, do you think that, your experience going to Savannah State and a difference from going to, Georgia State University? Yeah.
Yeah, huge difference.
Right.
Savannah State was more, because I was actually living on campus at Savannah State, it was more like family oriented,
Okay.
Everybody, I wouldn't say everybody was cool with everybody, but it was like family oriented. Like you felt a part of something, you know what I mean? At Georgia State, it was just kind of like, okay, go to class. Yeah, I got some friends there too, but it didn't have that family feel to it. Like, I guess classrooms are smaller,
right?
And you're around people that are like cultured.
Right.
And around your age group as well.
Right. And around your culture group as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So in Georgia State, it's not necessarily like that, It's just like, okay, your class is here, go to the class. You might meet a couple of people, but it's not one unit. That's the best way to describe it. Savannah State was more like one unit. Everybody kind of had a different different opinions on things, but kind of similar mindsets, Where at Georgia State, it was just, it's almost like, well, we're from New York. It was kind of that way. It's like a melting pot. Many different people, many different mindsets.
Right. That's irony because literally I was just sitting here thinking, we are from a melting pot being from New York. So, to your point, like, I don't think that I actually felt any sense of racism truly and ever felt it until I moved to the South. I literally, felt as if, wow, like racism exists in America. This is a real thing, right? Because in New York, it's kind of like it's there, it exists, but it's not blatant, right? It's not in your face. So when I came, to a different state, when I came to the South, it was very evident, right, that this thing existed and, that it truly was there. So to your point, I think sometimes that, African American youth, they do have, a better experience when they are around, people who can accept them as a culture, because I find that society clearly sometimes parses us out. And we don't like, for whatever reason, it feels politically incorrect for, white people or people that are not of color to kind of go against black people. People get offended when we talk blackness, right? Or when we say, we all want to be black. But when Asians do it or when Latinos do it, it doesn't seem to cause as much offense, right? But when black people, want to have black pride, then it seems to be a problem. And then we start talking about all lives matter. Clearly, all lives matter, right? Mm-hmm. But specifically because we've been challenged over time from a cultural perspective, and we've gone through things. We really just want to point out that blackness is important, right? And being black in America is an issue. It's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of we talk about your onboarding, right? Because you've had some experiences in these jobs, right? Mm-hmm. When you first go into an organization. And I truly believe that the way you bring someone in, that employee life cycle, it is a journey, right? So if you set somebody up for success, then more than likely they are going to be successful throughout their whole time, when they are within the organization. Talk to me a little about, what your experiences have been, and without naming the companies and kind of throwing them under the bus, talk to me about a positive experience that you've had, and then kind of a, pretty negative experience that you've had.
Trying to think. Sorry. As far as like going into jobs, I never really had an issue there. Right. Honestly.
Right.
Like you were saying, when you want to bring somebody in and set them up to succeed, I've had situations where that's not the case.
Right.
If you bring somebody into a pile of a mess,
right,
you can't really expect them to do much,
Right.
So a lot of companies should pay attention to that for sure. I would say a positive experience I've had. I had one job I really liked. Like you said, I'm not gonna name the name, but it was just like almost like how I was describing earlier with Savannah State.
Right.
Everybody, kind of had similar mindsets, and I made a lot of friends with that job too. Some people I still talk to, so
right.
It was like a good culture, good environment to go to, things like that. It wasn't stressed out like, hey, you need to do this by here or this. It was like, no, okay, you got it. Take your time,
Right.
So it was like that.
Do you think that it was management? Was it a lack of the tools and resources available to be successful, or was it like a combination of both of those things that made it negative?
Made it negative?
Yeah.
Oh, it's usually always management. To be honest with you, they're at the top.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can only do so much. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that employees at the lower level can't mess up, but when the management is all discombobulated, you're leading. It's like you're leading a pack of wolves to walk across like wet water. You know?
Right.
And they can't swim that far. It doesn't make sense.
Right. I think too sometimes there is some confusion, right? Because there's no differentiation between the levels of leadership, right? And then there's also some confusion about the power that people have within their immediate hands, right? Or the scope of their roles. And I think that, a lot of times leaders at the top, C-suite, CXO, right? A lot of times they are oblivious to the things that happen in the organizations because they are so far removed from it, right? And then the, kind of first line, second line, the director level, individuals, they are making these decisions, right? And these leaders in their defense are trusting them to make the right decisions. But, it goes to, me talking about hiring and taking it very seriously, because I always get really serious about talking talent strategies and things like that, right? In organizations I've gone into in the past, they take it really lightly, and we've always, almost gone into this perspective that it's a sales job, or that it's a sales role, or that you're selling these jobs to people, right? So you don't get qualified individuals that have, that talent or, heavy HR experience. Organizations have even gone so far to try to remove talent out of the HR space, right? But technically, if you have no knowledge of HR, you have no knowledge of people, if you have no knowledge of ethics or laws or things that are revolving HR, you can't truly be effective, right? Because it is, a very intense thing. I'll use the submarine incident, as an example, right? Not listening to your employees, hiring the wrong individuals, literally resulted, in the loss of lives. And I have so many other examples that I could give on the impact that it has to an individual person's life, right? So while people are just casting these decisions out and making these decisions, you are impacting people's lives. People are losing their homes. People are hungry. They're homeless. All kind of things, right? When people don't take these things seriously. So I am very serious when it comes to, thinking about talent strategies and how it should be approached. And I think that, leaders in these organizations should be taking it, kind of more serious. While, we're coming to wrap up here, I think, lastly, I'll ask you, as these companies are hiring and they're trying to attract talent, especially millennial type talent or even Gen Z talent, because I know you talk to Shane a lot and some of his ideas and concepts and, what he thinks about, he's my younger son. What do you think these organizations can do to attract, better talent, or what opportunities can they create that would make you all interested, you think?
To attract better talent?
Yeah.
If I'm being genuinely honest with you, I'm not really sure what they can and can't do. I would just say, if you want to attract our generation, when you promote your company, you got to promote it as make it like the best version of itself, something that's not hectic, not stressful, that I think I speak for my generation when I say that, people want to be comfortable. They want a good environment, They don't want a stressful environment. Probably the same with you guys, you want to go in, do your job, come home at the time, So just, that's how I would promote it as a welcoming place, like me personally, this is just my preference, like a family-oriented thing.
Right. So basically, you want the ability to be yourself.
Be comfortable with yourself, right? Exactly.
I think, I absolutely understand where you're coming from and kind of where you're going with it. And being yourself is important, right? I think you should be able to bring your whole self to work. Now, I really want to clarify that, because sometimes people think when I say whole self that I mean you should drag yourself out of bed like you just kind of woke up in the morning and go and look beat up and crazy, which is totally not what I mean, because I do think there is something to be said for your appearance and the way you present yourself and the way you're going into work. And also, the way you commit yourself even when you're working from home, right? Because a lot of times what I've faced, especially with, people that work for me, my expectation is that they get up and they look, their appearance is the same way as if they would come into an office, right? Like, I don't want to see your bedroom in the background, right? I don't want to see your dirty bed and nasty stuff all around. I don't care if you have to get a piece of cardboard and make a backdrop, whatever it is yourself, but, be presentable, or be available all the time, when you're needed at work. I also believe that leaders have to learn how to not be so strict, right? Because the one thing that I did say when this pandemic happened 3 years ago, because apparently we're still talking about the pandemic,
right?
And it's 3 years later. But the one thing that I did talk about was the exposure, and that it was going to, kind of break the weak away from the strong, right? Mm-hmm. Because a strong leader does not need to be in your face all the time and on your back all the time to ensure that you're doing your job. That's called micromanagement, right? A leader is going to be able to lead their people no matter where they are, right? So I think really, that people have to consider, people's personal values. You have to get to know your employees because everyone is not the same. So everybody's not going to need the same level as attention as somebody else. Right. Some people, it's like having kids, right? Because clearly you're dealing with different personalities and learning how to juggle those personalities. But I do think that there is, some sense of, oneness, unity in promoting that and saying this is a family-oriented environment. This is what we do. But I also believe in being genuinely honest, right? So if there are problems, let me know what I'm getting into up front. Like, don't, tell me it's one thing and then I come into it and then it's completely something else.
I would like to add something too.
Sure.
For sure, like you say, genuinely honest. Mm-hmm. You should be able to be honest without fear of losing your job.
Yes, my God, absolutely.
So I feel that too, but what it boils down to, honestly, is just respect, man. Respect for one another, you know.
I agree. I agree. So, while we get ready to wrap up here, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience while everybody is watching?
Happy to be here. Proud of my mom. She's doing this thing, so I'm happy for that. Just keep your mind on the swivel and have a great day.
Let me mention, he is still, looking for gainful employment, so please feel free to reach out. If you have opportunities, information systems, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, computers. I'm a tech guy. I know softwares, Unix, Python, maintenance, computer maintenance in general.
So open to different opportunities. Yeah. But so I want to thank you guys for tuning in again to episode 2 of Couch Time Talks. Episode 3 will be coming. We probably will do something more kind of generated toward the tech side of things. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. Be blessed.